Hello, and welcome back to the GLORIO Chat, the premier recap podcast for the legendary 1988 science fiction OVA, Legend of the... hold on. Right,
I'm hearing
yes.
word.
It was Recap and React podcast.
You're right, it was Recap and React. Thank you. You know, that's why you were my co-host on that podcast.
On the Sea of
You know,
Stars, yeah.
On the Sea of Stars. I could rely on you for that, Eero. But what I meant to say is the best anime podcast on the internet. That's right, folks. I've taken control of the ship once again. The mutiny is successful. IG will be your host for this week's GLORIO Chat. This is episode 191, and we are here to talk about the end of the spring 2025 season. What a season, what a season. There is, I would say, a good amount to talk about. And
yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yes, it is... might go long, so buckle up, strap it in, strap it on.
We cannot get into
was
this.
Was that the Saints Row?
Yeah, so we'll strap it on. We can move on from here.
Okay, fine. Yes, I'm host. I cannot go on my usual tangents. I have responsibilities here. So yes, I couldn't do this on my own. So along with me, supporting my mutiny, are my fellow hosts. As always, my reliable first mate, Eero.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet. This is not the first mutiny I've been through. It won't be the last. No.
Yes,
I've been here longer than most captains.
Yes, that is quite true. Some might even say, why isn't he the captain? Actually. Also with us is midshipman Artemis.
A mutiny? What mutiny? The username says Jal. I can read it right here.
You're Jal. Right. Yes. Here I am wearing his clothes, wearing his face. Shout outs to Jal. I'm sure he's doing well wherever he is at the moment. And finally, our boatswain Zig.
What's good, everybody?
We're all just switching places.
Not me.
No, of course, not you. Again, indispensable, irreplaceable.
Pyro is the stone which anchors all of our endeavors.
Yep, I'm the anchor. You toss me overboard every time we get into port, and I sit there among the fish.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Until you deem it fit to pull me back up and cram me in the hole.
He chose to take this analogy to that place, not me. Just let the record show. But yeah, we are talking about the end of spring 2025. I think generally a pretty good season, all said and done. Some I think helped out a lot by some surprises, as well as some other shows that are certainly going to fuel a lot of conversation, I think.
The surprises are always the best part of any season, in my opinion.
Definitely. Doing this so many years, I feel like the surprises are what keep me in anime. Like, why I still watch anime is because you get those shows every year that just come out of nowhere and remind you that, turns out they still got it over there. But yeah, speaking of one of those shows that I think, well, at the time that it aired was one of those surprises, now a very well-worn, very familiar guest on this podcast. The first show on our list is Apothecary Diaries, which technically not over yet. They skipped a week. I think I heard it was either a golf tournament or
it's always
something.
Golf.
It was that or something related to like Mission Impossible. I think Tom Cruise may have appeared on a Japanese variety show, potentially.
I feel like I heard about that. Yeah,
I feel like Tom Cruise is one of the most Japanese variety show coded celebrities out there at the moment.
But we're not here to talk about Tom Cruise. We're here to talk about Mao Mao, a much more important cultural institution.
Yes. And to be clear, although the show is not really is not over yet, it's all over bar the shouting, really.
Basically. So, who amongst us are up to date on Apothecary Diaries?
Yep.
You caught up? Okay, damn. All right. So, I'll cede the floor to you guys. How have you felt about these latest developments? Kind of the big climax of this She clan arc, I guess.
Go ahead, Zay.
A lot of stuff has happened, and so much stuff has happened, it's been kind of hard to keep track of all the stuff that is happening, honestly. That's mostly good, but sometimes it's gotten real confusing as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of various kind of subplot points that have kind of merged with each other, and if you were to try to explain it to somebody, like just explain the Apothecary Diaries, the previous 4 episodes or whatever, it would be a long and confusing essay. But for me, what I will say off the bat is that one of the things I really appreciate about the show is that even though it's the climax and it's the big kind of the last send off before the end of the season and everything, the moments that could be played as extremely dramatic and extremely just kind of overwrought are not. They tend to be more underplayed by the show, which I like.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of moments which have teetered on the edge a little, but for the most part, the drama has been surprisingly not respectful, but serious and played for intent. And I think that's mostly served it quite well. It's been a little bit of a shift in tone, considering that Apothecary Diaries is normally equal parts serious and goofy. But they've mostly nailed the serious stuff in this final arc, I think.
Yeah, the goofy stuff is definitely, for obvious reasons, taken kind of a backseat for the last couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy the fact that things that could be that are tragic, they are tragedies for various people and various lives, are not kind of the very sort of high drama, melodramatic kind of stuff. It's played quietly, and like you said, respectfully. It's not the kind of show where I think the creators are smart enough that they don't go, now there's a big tragedy, cue the swell of music and the orchestra, now everyone yell their lines, kind of thing. It's very
I think,
well, you could make an argument about that last episode. Probably does ratchet up the melodrama.
I think the Lowland death scene gets pretty close to that there, although it's still fairly tragic in context, but they definitely milk it a little bit there.
And I guess to be fair to that scene, it is intentionally meant to be like Lowland playing the role, right? She's playing it up, right? She's going to go down in history as the mad princess or whatever, right? And I think it is kind of I am actually, look, I'm not happy to see these characters die necessarily, but I am somewhat glad that we are seeing real consequences of this arc.
So,
right?
An important question: do we think they have the balls to make those kids actually dead?
No, I think those kids are probably fine because there's they make a whole deal about how Shisui invented the fake death medicine, right? So those kids and I think Lowland's specific favor.
You get the whole conversation. She's like, they've already died once, so you're not going to kill them again.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that's probably why Mao Mao is sleeping with the seemingly dead
bodies
kids and right there, but hell, man, it's I'm still kind of worried because Mao Mao gave Shisui that hairpin, and I thought that was going to come up this episode, and it did not, and it feels like you would not have a scene where such a Chekhov's gun is handed off prominently.
It did, but not in a huge way, right?
Yeah, it came up. It just wasn't in.
Wait, where did it come up?
She was taunting her mother, right?
Yeah, she took it out of her dress, and
I got the royal hairpin, and you didn't.
Wait, no, it's a different looking hairpin than like the one like Jinshi's hairpin. That's
Yeah,
the one Mamao gives.
The silver
one.
Yes. Oh, and then there's the other one that she takes from Shisui, right? Right, because that's the one that proves her like royal lineage or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
This is what I was talking about. It's just that there are. I'm impressed because it's really impressive that the show has managed to weave so many disparate threads together into this.
I'm sure
kind of,
they must have like a Bible of some kind that they have to furiously reference every time they want to.
I bet they've got a conspiracy board like full of like string and red string,
Yes,
and
and
pins
all
and
of it
stuff.
goes back, as seemingly always, it all goes back to the previous emperor.
right. I think that's kind of the like
all of the literally all of the problems.
right.
Yeah.
Right. The overarching theme of this like arc, right, is kind of just the ways in which the ghosts of the past haunt us,
Yeah.
right?
Right, and kids basically paying for the sins of their parents and grandparents and so forth.
Right.
And it's incredibly impressive how they've put it all together. But given the compressed time frame of an anime episode, it occasionally, like even somebody like me who I think has been paying fairly close attention to the things that have happened, occasionally I have to go, wait, that happened? And somebody will have to remind me or something like that.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
just
I mean,
a little
I do-
difficult to wrap your head around every single twist and every
Yeah.
single plot thread.
Like overall, I would say I enjoyed the payoff on everything, but I will say that last episode does feel a little workman-like in like the like I know it's supposed to be the big like Lolan / Shisui is like breaking down her mother by she's doing the Sherlock, right? She's like, at this key juncture, this is where you fucked up. And it did feel a little bit like a little expository, right? Like I'm going to break it down point by point, but also this conspiracy has gotten so convoluted that I kind of did appreciate it. So
yeah,
Right.
I think that part of the problem here is just the inherent nature of an episodic TV show means you can't really spread a lot of that stuff out in a more organic way, right? It has to be, here is the expo dumping section, and then here is the drama section. You cannot, because if you spread it across multiple episodes, it would then become even more confusing because you'd forget it from week to
probably,
week.
yeah. But yeah, well, I mean, I feel like with Apothecary Diaries, I guess the big question, I mean, the next episode preview kind of made it look like a recap episode, which I kind of hope that's not the case.
It might be a kind of look how far we've come episode, right?
Right.
Because on the other hand, if it is like recap-ish, is that almost like a smoking gun that... Well, have they announced if Apothecary Diaries is getting a season 3?
Not yet.
No, but it's been
They have not.
incredibly successful. I would be shocked.
I would be absolutely shocked. Yes.
We are
Right.
however, in the like kind of weird territory of the anime is largely based on the manga adaptation of the web novels, and it has overtaken the manga.
Right, and
So
I think
there is stuff there to adapt. It's just they don't have a visual guide hot and ready.
they would not have the manga, yes, as a blueprint anymore. I recall you said, I think this was ages ago, that this arc would broadly be like, if this would kind of be like Vinland Saga's Farmland Saga arc, right? Of like, if you had to pick a place to, get off the train, right? Like, is this kind of what you were alluding to? Is the end of this arc?
I don't recall saying that, but
well, you did say it.
all right. I think I was said that in the sense of like this is where they would cut a season, right?
Okay.
Like if you had to, and like I think by web novel standards, like we are still less than halfway through the whole story, something like that. I've not read them,
Right.
but that is what I've heard.
Well, the main reason I ask that, right, is because often with these sorts of like anime adaptations of like very long running material, I think often committing to adapting the entire work is so daunting that I think a lot of adaptations almost take the stance of like, we're going to adapt the part that like everybody, like up to the point that everybody like likes the most or remembers.
Right.
And-
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, that also plays into the idea of many anime simply being adverts for the manga that they're based
Right.
on, right? This is obviously a slightly different situation.
Right.
But
I guess the question then is the manga was quite popular, hence why we got an anime and all that. And it's like, now is the anime so popular that they would keep trying to do more
Right.
first, you know?
I mean,
I think in Japan the anime, certainly overseas it is. I think in Japan it is pretty popular as well, from what I've seen.
I've been keeping an eye on
and stuff.
I've been keeping an eye on the ratings posts which ANN puts up, and it's been pulling for anime. It's been pulling pretty massive numbers. You know, it's regularly been beating out like the big kids shows like Pokemon and Precure and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I definitely think its popularity at this point is a very well known fact. I was just curious because based on the way you were talking about like how far we are in the plot era, it's like, oh, if we don't stop here, are we going to be talking about like Apothecary Diaries episode 101 2 years from now?
I mean, like, by the standards of long-running anime series, 100 episodes is not even really a drop in the ocean, quite frankly. So,
I think by modern anime production standards, even the full 50 is like exceedingly rare these days. So that's
right.
That's
but
kind of the main reason I brought it up.
Like, there are still plenty of shows that go on for that long. You know, not even just the big stuff like One Piece. You know, you think about stuff like Natsume's Book of Friends, which we were talking about.
Of course,
at the end of last year.
Yes.
That's what 7 seasons deep now.
Right. The point I was making is like, yes, there have always been the long runners. I think it's just more. I think, look, you know, there's a certain 12 episode anime where we'll be talking about later, where we can maybe discuss the increasing rarity of the full length TV series.
Right. I mean, but on some level, you know, there will be more anime if it seems profitable to make more anime.
Of course, yes.
I think that you know, Apothecary Diaries is a good-looking show. It's a well-crafted and smart-looking show.
True.
I doubt it's hugely expensive to make by anime standards.
You are probably correct, but I have heard, you know, from the rap sheets, so to speak, that apparently Apothecary Diaries has been a somewhat troubled production. Is maybe like too far, but I've certainly heard that. My understanding is that the Apothecary Diaries production has been a little riding by the seat of their pants.
Interesting.
I think there was some talk that the studio was pushing hard for a season split, or a one core like a 1 season split between this batch of episodes, because doing the full 26 back to back was apparently
a little bit on the ragged edge, perhaps.
Yes. Apparently they've been, you know, obviously with Japanese, you know, like working conditions and the nature of like how publicized this stuff is, like, you know, they're always going to give you the like nicest version of the story, but indications had been that production on Apothecary Diaries was starting to get a little tight there towards the end. So
I wonder if then between that and the fact that they have run out of the immediate source material, perhaps we will see a longer break between this season and a potential future season, you know. Because
we might even get one of those cute kind of like, and while you wait, here's a 3-episode OVA of like a goofy short arc
sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, here's a compilation movie, because we all love those.
Please, God, no, anything but that.
Well, I think for now... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sue.
I was just going to say, you know, because obviously this second season followed fairly hot on the heels of the first season, and I get striking while the iron is hot when you've got a hit on your hands, but the combination of those factors, perhaps they will take a year or two to perhaps put out something else. But we'll see, you know, if the money is there, then they will find someone to do it.
I'm sure they'll find a way, yes. But I think for now, that's a bow on Apothecary Diaries. Again, I mean, look, if that last episode hits us with some crazy reveals, maybe we'll revive this conversation. But for now, I think, you know, a pleasant show, a reliable partner.
I think these last couple of episodes did step it up to the necessary degree to feel genuinely dramatic and genuinely like a season finale. You know, I think that, like, we've talked a lot about how Apothecary Diaries has a very high floor. It's very rarely less than good. I think these episodes were kind of a step up in the important way.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think on that note, shall we move on to the next show here?
Speaking of
Artemis,
steps up in quality,
yes. Tell us, regale us about Witch Watch.
Yes, well, so this one is still ongoing. This one is
Okay.
also a two-core show, so I don't believe there's going to be any break. I don't think they're taking a week off or anything, as far as I know. They're just kind of keeping going there. I don't know how popular this one is. It's hard for me to get a read on it in terms of like how popular it is, at least overseas. But it's being released like Crunchyroll and Netflix, and I think
Huh.
maybe Hulu as well. Don't quote me on that. I do not remember. But it has a wide
Right.
release.
I mean, it is the Shonen Jump property of the moment, right?
It is, but I think because it lacked that like very kind of dark action adventure-y kind of vibes,
Right,
like your
yeah.
Jujutsu
Telling me
Kaisens
Witch
and so
Watch
forth.
doesn't have hype moments and aura, as the kids say.
Are the kids
It
saying
doesn't,
that?
Don't
but
ever.
I don't know. What are the
Yes.
youths of today saying?
Ugh.
I like it a lot. It has engendered a lot of goodwill from me because it's not that kind of a show. If it was, I don't think I would be watching. I generally don't enjoy Shonen Jump for that reason.
Right.
It's just not my cup of tea, basically. Um, Witch Watch is kind of average when it's the more action, when it gets not dark but more serious. It doesn't really ever get super dark, or at least not so far. But its comedy really shines for me still, and that's quite a rarity for me to say in anime because I enjoy comedy as a genre, but I can't think of that many comedy anime where I can really say it works for me
Right.
consistently.
We've spoken a few times on the podcast about how there's kind of a cultural gap in between the mainstream Japanese style of comedy and the style that we are used to in the West, and that can occasionally be a little bit difficult to overcome, right?
Yeah. I don't think I would recommend this show, for example, to anyone starting out with anime at
Right.
all, because there are just so many references that I don't think it would be appreciated. And there are lots of references that I miss because it's not just referencing anime. I'm sure it's also referencing variety shows and ads and this kind of whole
And variety
thing.
shows, the one type of Japanese TV.
And various comedians and all these,
Yeah.
it's referencing
Right.
kind of a huge mishmash of things. But I get enough of it to appreciate it. And those episodes that really lean into the references for the comedy do work pretty well, I
Cool.
think. So it's actually become surprisingly, any kind of sequels aside, it has become my favorite show of the season.
That's
Wow. All right.
that's interesting to me because I watched the first episode for coverage purposes, and I found it fairly cliched and tedious to me.
I didn't enjoy it either. I also did not enjoy the first episode.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah, if I had been basing it just off episode one, I would probably not have continued watching. I thought it was
Interesting.
average at best, at very best, episode one. Episode two was a step up, and episode three absolutely hit it for me. So
Nice.
this is one of those shows where I'm not a big advocate of the 3-episode rule. I think that's kind of bullshit, to be honest. But this series, episode 3, absolutely is where it hit for me, and that's what convinced me to keep watching.
I'm glad to hear that because contrary to popular belief, we don't like it when shows are bad. So to hear that it did really like improve a great deal really quickly, that's very encouraging.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no.
I wonder if this is one of those cases of because it is Shonen Jump, correct? And I feel like we often talk about like sometimes you can tell in real time that an author is getting more comfortable with like the type of story they want to tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or like they get into the groove, right? I remember Well, Jujutsu Kaisen then fell off again towards the end there, but I remember when we were watching the anime, at least, I feel like season 1 was or the first core was good, but fine. And then the second core was we really loved it. And yeah, I wonder if in Witch Watch's
Right.
case, it was maybe another situation of oh, the author was maybe not as confident with their comedy chops or their joke material, and then as they kind of got into the groove, they got more familiar, more comfortable, and maybe that gets reflected in how the anime presents itself as well.
I also
Yeah.
wonder if just the sort of the formula for the opening chapter of a Shonen Jump show or strip is so cast in stone at this point that it's hard to express the real character of the work out of it, right? Because we all know that Shonen Jump has a very heavy editorial hand in a lot of the stuff it publishes, and I just wonder if kind of it's very hard to express what the true character of your story in just that opening chapter, which seems counterintuitive because theoretically an opening chapter is where you put your best foot forward, but when you have a formula that works, it can be very easy to try and cram everything into that formula, right?
Yeah, I think also Witch Watch didn't really help that there needed to be some exposition put front, because otherwise you don't know why these people are living together or anything. And so it has to start off on at least a mildly serious tone to set any stakes whatsoever. But because it's serious moments are just not its strongest suit, that didn't play in its favor necessarily for an episode 1.
Right.
Well, hey, we love to see a story of redemption. So
Yeah. I wouldn't even necessarily say redemption, because it was never bad. So I wouldn't.
Fair enough. I just feel
I know what you
recall
mean.
the initial reception of that first episode was pretty icy. At least here on the GLORIO blog, I feel like.
Yeah, I think I called it mid. Yeah.
So to go from that to your favorite anime this season, that's quite.
That's not a sequel. Yeah, because I still do think Apothecary Diaries is a fair amount of life. But yeah, it's one of those. I guess it's not dissimilar to the Apothecary Diaries, and that it's become kind of the old faithful for me.
Right.
So I will keep watching. Yes.
Nice. All right. Well, maybe we'll have to check back in summer season, see how the trials and travails of this Witch Watch here. But
Yes.
well, speaking of probably maybe the favorite comedy of probably the rest of us here present, Apocalypse Hotel, huh?
I think I echo the sort of majority sentiment of the people who've seen it, in that this is probably the best show of the season, right?
It's good.
This made, I think Arrow made his called shot top 3 of our top 10 lists. I will lean towards top 5, but this has the juice, it's got it has the component parts that I think endear it well to this specific voting and critical body, shall we say. But yeah, Apocalypse Hotel, man, I think obviously this is our wrap up, but I do want to talk a little bit at least about these last couple episodes here, right? We didn't get a chance to talk about the penultimate episode, was episode 11, I believe, where Yachio is forced on vacation, right? She is told that she has accrued too many hours and must take a mandatory day off. And I mean, irregardless of the quality of the rest of this show overall, this episode alone, I mean,
yeah,
wow.
I mean, it was an exceptional bit of television. It reminded me quite strongly of some of the more standout individual episodes of Space Dandy, in the sense that it was kind of like this almost like a miniature film in its own right, if that makes sense.
Totally. I mean, I've seen people compare that episode to Mushishi, YKK, right? Like this.
Right.
Hell, I've seen people compare it to like Samurai Jack, right? Like there's a very like meditative quality to that episode where Yachio is kind of just wandering the like ruins of the old world, and it's also beautiful. Like it's a beautifully drawn.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the show all along
episode.
has been an exceptional piece of production.
Yes, but this one especially, and I think it works especially well because I know I saw the take that like Apocalypse Hotel should have just been this the whole time, and
No.
maybe I would have.
No,
Okay, I'll say I would have liked maybe another episode like this somewhere in the 12, but I think this is a classic example of something coming off much stronger because of what it is surrounded by, right? Like,
Yeah.
because even the prior episode to this is it's the passing of Ponko's grandma, right? It's the no, that was 2 episodes ago. God,
It was the murder mystery guy.
right.
Wasn't it?
Your friend and mine, Kei Mataba, right?
Yes.
Showed up. Yes. God, this is the problem when we have to we get caught up on our season previews and stuff. We don't get to talk about episodes,
Mhm.
but shout outs to Ponko's grandma. That was a hell of a
Yes, our combination wedding funeral.
yes. Maybe if we're talking about best episode of
Mhm.
this show, it might be that one for me. but yeah, just yes, the penultimate episode almost works as I kind of love that we get episode 11. Episode 11 almost gets to be the thematic and tonal conclusion to Apocalypse Hotel.
I mean, I think that it's kind of meant to be a loop back around to the beginning of the show, right? Which was
Right.
Mhm.
obviously this very melancholic sort of meditation on the destruction of humanity, so to speak.
Right. Well,
I think that it's
right.
kind of a bookend.
Right, and
Yeah,
because we get that bookend done in the penultimate episode, we can kind of goof around a little more in the actual final episode.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I think I actually I really appreciated that choice, right? Because I think if you end on this kind of somber, meditative note, it kind of leaves Apocalypse Hotel in a weird place of well, what were we supposed to take away from this? But by being the penultimate episode, the last episode kind of gets to go back to look at these lovable dirtbags and idiots getting up to their antics. And
Right, and the thing is, I appreciate that as a creative decision because although episode 11 is a fantastic bit of media, a fantastic bit of filmmaking, I don't think that ending on that note would have been truly reflective of the show as a whole,
Right.
which is a comedy. It
Yeah.
leans more to being a comedy than anything else, and I think it's important that the final episode left us on a more comedic, character-focused note. The melancholy, and I appreciate the melancholy, but that's always
sure.
kind of been the background contrast to the foreground antics. And
in some ways, it is the spice or garnish to Apocalypse Hotel.
right, exactly. I mean, in a very real sense, it is the distinguishing factor which makes this quote unquote more than just a bawdy workplace comedy, right?
Right. But yeah, that
Yeah.
last episode, we find out that the humans, they're okay. Kind of.
Ish.
Yeah. They,
Yep.
one comes back. I really do love it's a perfect it's still a comedy that the last episode, but I think the character the character story of Yachio in the last episode is actually perfect, right? Because the comedy's around how it's the dog catching the car, right? She has prepared
Yes.
her entire existence, the last 500 years of her life, preparing for the grand return of the human race. And it's almost disturbingly mundane, right? It's
Right, that's the thing, it's not it's a comedy, but it's not a huge goof. It's more a kind of a deliberate anticlimax, right?
yeah.
Great bit where we cut from Yachio screaming to human screaming.
Yeah. It was very
And back.
good. Yes, excellent. Again, the show just has a great sense of humor and knows where to deploy it. Truly, but
I mean, I think this show has what I've observed in many of the very good shows we've seen over the years, which is very strong and precise control over its tone at any point, right? You never feel that things are unintentionally goofy or unintentionally horrifying or anything like that. The show is very clear about what it is. It knows how to, tell the joke or or whatever it's trying to do for maximum effect in the current scene, and there's just a sense of confidence and assuredness in the storytelling, in the scene setting, in the punchline setup.
A show that makes it seem effortless, right? Like
exactly. I think that's the thing I kept saying while watching the show. Is like, obviously this show is not effortless, but there's something about there's certain works out. Like, I think I was talking with Iro about this. Is like, there's some works out there that you love and are good, but you know in your heart that work was probably a fight every step of the way. Like, it was a struggle to get it to the good place it was. I think the example I brought up was, the infamous story of like the Kill la Kill finale literally being worked on the day it was supposed to air, right? Like, you could tell that great show, but like the production was a battle. And maybe the production for Apocalypse Hotel was a fight, maybe, but the way the show presents itself, the confidence it displays at every turn, with every topic it tackles, it's just like, it makes it look easy. It's almost like Apocalypse Hotel is looking at everybody else and like,
I don't see what the problem is. Why can't you juggle like this?
Yeah, like I don't see the problem. Anime comedies are easy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, like, this might sound like a bit of an odd comparison, but it reminds me a little bit of Odd Taxi in the sense that it has this sort of like, it has this unique visual style. It has a very strong sense of what it knows what it is. It has paced itself perfectly. There is sort of value to be found in every frame. Obviously, this is a comedic work, and Odd Taxi leaned more towards being a dramatic work, but it had comedic parts, and this has dramatic parts,
True.
And that there is just sort of that sense of unified purpose, which is rare in anime, especially, but also just, TV shows are a very difficult thing to do because they are touched by so many hands, right? And Apocalypse Hotel feels like an unvarnished translation of what the creative team intended, and you can feel that, and it makes watching it really enjoyable, because not only is it funny and not only do you like the characters, but also you can appreciate the craft, right? And I don't mean that in a cold, there's a part of me sitting over here saying, yes, the blocking in this scene is fantastic, but you feel the net effect of all these artists working together.
Yeah, it's good.
Yes. Shout outs to a show that also knows how to bow out gracefully. Like, in some ways, if I were to get a little meta here, a little like peek behind the curtains, a little inside baseball, as you say, I almost think probably the strongest thing Apocalypse Hotel has going for it is it chose to simply end, and like before it could ever potentially disappoint us. Like, I think about many of our other like perennial GLORIO favorites, Ranking of Kings or Birdie Wing, and in some ways the things that hurt those shows in the long run was they kept going. And Apocalypse Hotel probably benefits so much from it called its shot, it perfectly nailed it, and it's walked off stage, right? Just
so you're saying you could see the appeal of a 12-episode show?
Shut the hell up, Iro. I don't need this from you.
One thing I will say is that obviously it's much easier to do that when you are an original property that is not beholden to telling a story that has already been told in another medium, right?
Right, like Lazarus. I assume that's what you meant, right, Iro?
Sure.
But also, we probably shouldn't understate the fact as well that, this is Cygames Pictures, and this is a huge... God. Yeah, they, like, clearly resourcing was not a problem for this show. At the same time, though, this is a big step up in terms of, like, overall quality from their previous work. And that's good, because I think it shows that the studio can live outside of just being, another propaganda arm of the
Right. Though their previous
multi-headed
work,
Hydra.
their previous work was Bang Bravern. So
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right.
they-
I apologize. I had forgotten that they did Bravern as well.
Right.
Actually,
No, I mean
so-
that's the thing. Like we kind of like the reality is we cannot really sleep on Side Games pictures anymore.
No.
Like I think for so many years we were comfortable. Oh, that's the Grand Blue Fantasy and Uma Musume Factory, right? But yeah, between Bravern and this, like they are kind of knocking it out of the park with the originals.
And I still think that this represents an interesting step up because although Bravern was a great show, it was a great show that was spearheaded by outside creative forces, right? I mean, Obari was the big name behind that, and he brought some of his crew with him.
Right.
Whereas this apparently is as in-house as it can get. I know the anime industry in-house is kind of a relative term.
Yes.
But the fact that they have now produced another great show in a fairly different genre to Bravern, because, Bravern, also a comedy, different kind of comedy, also an action show, all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's encouraging when studios start producing multiple high-quality shows in a row. That's when you can really tell they've got the wind in their sails.
Yeah, you definitely have to start paying attention. But yeah, Apocalypse Hotel, really, really excellent job. Gotta hand it. Unfortunately, here you kind of have you have to hand it to Side Games.
They're not behind they're not behind next season's hotel show, are they? I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Did we talk about that in the preview? I forget. What hotel show are you talking about?
Hotel and Humans. A hotel where assassins. It kind of sounds John Wicky, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think we talked
That
about
is not.
in
That is
the
not
preview.
Side Games.
No. Okay.
Okay. But no, I don't believe so. Though yes, I a little weird that I have to now every time we have a new season I will have to at least try to look up what Side Games is doing. I mean, look, to be clear, this does not mean that they are going to stop being the Grand Blue Fantasy and Uma Musume Factory. But hey, if they're using their ill-gotten gains for stuff like this, I mean, I'm all here for it.
Yeah, and I think it's very telling that pretty much all of us immediately believe that this is a front runner for anime of the year, as far away as that may be. It is clearly a cut above the vast majority of stuff we have seen in the last 6 months or so.
For sure.
So is this you guys all like same pick for kind of anime of the season then? Like that's kind of a non-sequel?
Yeah.
Sure.
For me, unquestionably, yes.
I would feel confident saying that, totally.
Yep. No hesitation.
Nice. I will try and give that Anon Taxi a go because I still have no one.
Sorry, I'm not trying to pressure you here, but you maybe should check out Apocalypse Hotel.
Yeah.
You got a minute.
I will do my best.
Well, speaking of another 12-episode original anime that took the world by
13
storm.
episodes, in fact.
Oh yeah, it was your favorite show of the season, non-sequel, right, guys?
No, you're right.
What do you mean, Artis? This is clearly a sequel to Shinichiro Watanabe's beloved Adult Swim cartoon, Cowboy Bebop.
So
I have heard only negative buzz about this thing. The first episode was bad, which is all I've seen, and how bad has it been, really?
it just keeps
Pretty
getting
grim.
worse.
Wow.
I don't know if it kept getting worse. I just think it stayed bad.
I think
Maybe you're right.
I think it stayed bad, but decided to experiment in the ways in which it could be bad in new and exciting ways.
That's a good way to put it, Hero. Yeah, so I mean, I don't even know if I want to give the play-by-play on Lazarus, but
what
How
play-by-play is there to give? Like,
How did they resolve the central problem?
okay,
Probably?
you know what? They go back to the homeless camp from episode 3, and Skinner was there all along.
Oh yeah, the guy that no one ever thought, like I'm sure no fan ever was like, hey, could that be Skinner? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure everyone guessed that was the guy. I don't know if they were
Right.
going for a surprise or not, but if they were, it failed miserably.
So, first of all, even though the time limit's up, all of our heroes are fine, and we get told it's because they all have, when the biological weapon or whatever happened in the flashback, all their DNA mutated, and though they died, they came back to life. That's why we assembled them all to be the Lazarus team, and so they're immune to the bad effects of Hypna in the first place.
Well,
Okay.
Okay, that is not what the Bible story is about. But
No, absolutely
not. that didn't bother me. That part, I was like, fine, anime logic, yes, whatever, coincidence, great, awesome.
But then they find Skinner and he gives up the cure.
You're telling me they had a countdown this entire time, right? They had it like 7 days to go.
I know.
5 days to go. Wasn't the previous episode 1 day to go?
Yeah.
Are you telling me that in 24 hours, and let's just assume you have the entire 24 hours, you managed to create the vaccine and administer it to every single person
It's
Who
so
ever
good.
took
on the planet within 24 hours?
It's just there's so many things.
The thing
about
is,
this
like
show
a
that
couple
just-
years ago, we lived through the problem of we made a vaccine for the virus that was killing everybody, and it was really hard to get it to as many people as possible, and companies were competing over whose vaccine do you get, and all of this other bullshit. Everybody said, a bunch of assholes saying, we can't take that, it'll be bad. And it's just, everything about Lazarus is like, scare quotes, informed by dealing with COVID-19, and it just does not engage with it on any level of reality at all.
If I wanted to be like really, really fucking mean to Lazarus, and maybe to an extent Shinichiro Watanabe himself, Lazarus is resist lib Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Like, it's all its sensibilities, all its
Well, you
like
see, as a
social
black
messaging.
trans woman, I have experienced systemic discrimination. Well, as a black academic, I have also experienced discrimination, so I understand how you feel. Have you seen the rising sea levels and the natural beauty of these islands that have now gone underwater?
This just sounds like an after-school special.
The thing that's really
Do you think these characters would have worked if the scripting wasn't so goddamn awful?
don't know, because I think so much of the fundamental like building blocks of the Lazarus story just don't work for me. Like, so
I mean, can I ask something fairly fundamental to begin with, which is,
sure.
do they ever give a reason why Skinner decided that humanity had to die? Because, like, in the initial message, he says, "Oh, humanity is sick and evil," but there has, like, most stories are like this.
It's a like convoluted ass explanation.
But the basic explanation is that, like, the bioweapon terrorist incident that Dr. Skinner was involved in was revealed to be a U.S. government false flag, which like disillusioned him about like.
Well, it wasn't a false flag. It's like he discovered it, and then they tried to silence him and caused it to go off, right?
Well, caused it to go off, yes, and then blamed him for it, right? So I guess, and the point is like, so he announces the entire like Hypna thing will kill people to basically motivate other people to uncover like U.S. government's involvement.
Yes, what he made the bioweapon in question into Hypna.
Yes, and it's all very like, again, I say resist lib because like so it's like, oh no, like this conspiracy goes straight to the top, and there's all like there's a different faction of the U.S. government that wants to kill the Lazarus team before they discover the truth, and so they hire this like like super evil razor wire using Chinese assassin who is like half vicious, half like Piroi or whatever that dude's name, the evil clown Piroi, like the evil clown assassin that goes after Spike.
Your standard anime psycho for hire, basically.
Yeah, evil psycho, but like like he sees a pendant that Axel's wearing, and it undoes the conditioning, and he goes crazy, and it
has nothing to do with anything.
It's so bad, and like anyway, so the point is like it all ends with like, well, because we uncovered the conspiracy, the good branch of the U.S. government will arrest the bad branch of the U.S. government and hold them accountable for their crimes. And if you haven't, look,
the copyist out of endings.
Look, we here at the GLORIO chat now, you know us, we don't like to get political. But if you fucking read a headline in the news in the last few weeks, you know how patently absurd this resolution sounds?
Yeah.
I mean, it's also just because I'm not going to lie, the idea that Skinner's motivation for doing this was that he was involved in some like dark ass bioweapon shit with the US government. Not terrible, not especially
I don't know
original.
If he was even
not
necessarily involved personally. It's still a little bit unclear. But
right, okay, but the basic idea is, you know, I'm not going to say it's the greatest idea in the universe, but there are far worse motivations for your evil villain to have. But it just sounds like they botched the execution so insanely.
To whistle blow on the United States developing weapons banned by the Geneva Convention, I'm going to kill the entire human race.
And it's like, and the thing that's like really insane about the conclusion of all this is like Skinner's broad like manifesto is that like the true sin of Hackna is that it was dulling our senses to like the pain and suffering that is necessary is a necessary part of the human experience, and that you see, actually by taking this painkiller you're dulling your view of reality, that you must embrace the pain. And it's all just so, it feels so patronizing,
to the point where there's like in one of the ending shots, you know, they have like a bunch of kind of quick flash kind of scenes of the future, and everything's a lot more kind of optimistic, and there's a big banner up like that's being presented by, I guess, like a scientific panel or the US government or whatever, that says like no more Hackna, welcome pain or something.
Oh my god. It's like, I mean, I don't want to just like litigate every single individual plot point, but it's like, and also like the story ends with like them being like the Lazarus team being recruited by the U.S. government, which is like some real like MCU brained storytelling.
Yeah, it does feel very like that.
You know, like, all
right, how would you like to become part of the problem?
Yeah, but they're like, don't worry, you'll join the good Lazarus team that will live in the light. And they're all like, yeah, sounds awesome. And it's like, and I think it's like the weird thing of like, there's like also doing the whole like, well, I don't know, but I just can't leave these chuckleheads alone. And it's like, you guys have no chemistry.
This sounds like a story assembled entirely out of cliches.
Kind of
like.
Yeah, guess like even if I take this show like at what it's attempting to be, which is like a cool ensemble crew solves a mystery or whatever, the mystery is not good and the crew is not good. And so it's like I don't have any reason to enjoy this.
Yeah. Is there anybody
in the crew, like even on your own like merits, right?
Is there anybody in the crew who is remotely likable or interesting as a character?
No.
No. The closest thing I got was like the very closest was the episode with I don't even know her name, the Russian chick.
Christy?
Chris. They call her Chris, right? Yeah, they call her Chris.
Yeah.
Because that was the one with basically the least amount of exposition. There were a couple of moments where no one talked, and it was really, really nice.
It's the one where you could turn your brain off.
Yeah, and it had like a bit of like kind of not super in your face, but obvious enough kind of relationship stuff that actually felt genuine for a second. Like that's the closest it gets to me. But even that is not like her as a character. It's just that episode was better.
Yeah. I think like the reason why I feel like I am willing to be so harsh on Lazarus is, to be clear, I do think it's very unfair that many Watanabe works are like unfortunately often compared to Cowboy Bebop, right? That for better or worse, Cowboy Bebop is the lodestone around his neck. You know, everybody's
He
like,
will.
"Oh,
He
that's
will
not
never escape the shadow
true." And
of
most
that,
of
and
the
to
times,
a lesser extent, probably Champloo, at least for
Yes.
overseas fans.
And for the most part, I rarely criticize Watanabe for not. I am never like, I hate this show because he didn't make Cowboy Bebop again.
Right.
But this show, because this show, like, explicitly positions itself as a spiritual successor to Cowboy Bebop, I feel more comfortable pointing out like the myriad ways it fails, not only on the thematic and tonal and character storytelling aspects, but also the presentation. The action is bad. I don't like the way this show looks. I don't like the way it animates.
The overwhelming impression I got from all of the publicity leading up to this show was that Watanabe had gotten tired and sold out. And I don't know how true that is, obviously, but it seems like everybody involved in the production, there were just bad vibes coming off the thing. You know, it seemed like everybody had just said, "Oh, you want your slop? Here's your slop." You know, and I don't know how fair that is because, again, I only saw one episode of the show itself, but I'm not hearing
he was still doing a lot of interviews and stuff like during the show as well, and after that sounded kind of victory lapish to me.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, there are a couple interviews out there where it does. I mean, again, it's hard to tell because at the end of the day, it's all PR. But
yeah, that's the thing. Like, even more than most entertainment industries, anime interviews are incredible softballs, right?
Yeah.
But I know what Artemis is talking about. That there are some statements from Watanabe where it almost sounded like he was like explicitly taking credit for like a lot of the creative drive of Lazarus. Like, you know, where I think if he had kept his mouth shut, we probably would all just go, "God damn it, Jason Tamarco, you ruined yet another."
we would have. We absolutely would have. And maybe we still should. I don't know. He insisted, Watanabe insisted that despite Cartoon Network funding the show, he was not given any particular direction or instructions, you know, about what the show should be about, you know, where and when it should be set, about its characters, you know,
right,
about
sure.
its genre even.
It sounds like my assumption was wrong then, but
it's hard to say. But at least as far as what has been said publicly, Watanabe is happy to take that bullet. Apparently, so
maybe it's very popular in Japan. I don't know. I think it did moderately fine. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was wildly successful.
The thing is, like, Bebop isn't that successful in Japan, right? Like, it's kind
highly
of
regarded, but it's not. But it's not
right.
what
not
it is. Yeah,
that it is here, and I don't know. It's like again, I don't want to say like Watanabe retire bitch, but like it's an unfortunate place to be left here at the end of Lazarus, where ever since Space Dandy, you know, kind of in my opinion, the last like truly great Watanabe show, I feel like.
You know, I think it's fair to say that Watanabe was more of a kind of collaborative, creative director on Space Dandy than, like, a lot of that show was written by other people, notably Dai Sato, and, you know, the standout episodes were controlled by their individual episode directors for the most part.
But you look at, like, his body of work since then, right? You look at, like, a Carol and Tuesday, you look at a Lazarus, and I find myself, like,
I did not think Carol and Tuesday was awful. It was perfectly fine.
I don't think
I did not like it. I did not. I didn't think it was good at all. I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was good.
It had the swearing mermaid band.
Yeah, you mean all the Kimiko Ueno episodes?
It was unintentionally funny a lot of the time. I think.
But I think back to a lot of my criticisms about the end of Carol and Tuesday, which also had a big social message in the end. Right?
Yeah,
the point was about
Mars Ice sure doesn't look any better now.
And it once again, it's the feeling of like, again, it's what I said of like, again, maybe not even woke uncle as it is just resist lib uncle at the barbecue who like, Yeah, dude. No, I totally get it. Like like Watanabe's out here like fucking jabbering my ear off about how, well, when you really think about it, like all these things we engage with, the drugs and the alcohol and the mass media consumption, it's all just ways to like dull our awareness of like
It's
the
just
true
bread and
injustices
circuses,
in the world.
man.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, I know. That's why I watch anime. it's like, yeah. Dude.
I mean, I think to be generous, there are more subtle ways to integrate your message into your anime or your work of art in general.
I don't know. Well, yeah. Yes, there is.
Well, you guys will be excited to know that he is already considering his next project, according to various sources, which is supposedly going to be a ghost story, and he has been watching The Exorcist a lot.
Okay.
Man,
He better be more interesting than this. Tell you what.
What if he watched The Exorcist 2 a lot, though? Then at least
I was a little sad because you said X, and I thought you were about to say The X-Files.
Oh.
Like, I don't know, Watanabe takes on supernatural, like, small-time America investigators.
Watanabe watches Twin Peaks. Like,
okay, but there's a problem with that. It's that everybody in every single character in a Watanabe show is already the cigarette-smoking man. Mm-hmm. So, like...
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it just sounds like kind of a bummer. Really.
It's just kind of frustrating, right? And it's like I'm trying to even trying to take the show at its word, like on its own merits. It doesn't do a good job of what it is purporting to do, right?
Right. That might be the most disappointing part, right? Not that it's bad, but that it's bad in a way that there just doesn't seem to be anything worth talking about, right? It's bad. It's bad in depressing,
it's bad in
boring
ways. It's right. It's right. Yes, pretty much.
This show just sucks, man. There's like
in the way that it's like occasionally difficult to talk about Apocalypse Hotel because it's just good. It's often hard to talk about Lazarus because it's just kind of bad.
And I felt like I really did engage with it on genuine terms. Like I started out willing to give it, and even at not midpoint, but sometime before that, like a couple of several episodes in, I was still willing to give it the benefit of the doubt in some regards, and kind of tried to defend.
Yep.
If not it, then certain aspects of it or why things happened the way they did.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Watanabe has made enough shows that we deserve to give him that, right? Like he has made enough great shows that you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's just disappointing that it seems like that there was nothing here to latch onto. Not that they're not even bad shows can be interesting, but it sounds like this show was not even
right. It does not even give you anything to like chew on.
Yeah, we said it in a previous podcast. We might as well say it again. To all you Moonrise heads out there, you Moon heads,
Moonies.
Yeah, maybe Eero and I.
Not that one. Yeah.
No, wrong.
Not that one.
No.
Yeah.
We're not looking to get targeted by the doohickey here.
Mm-hmm.
We probably would have had a better time watching Moonrise. I think the only reason
I think I'm on tape say that, or
I said that. I said that you were on record saying that. But what I'm saying is, if you're out there being like, why the fuck did they torture themselves with Lazarus when Moonrise and Miss Salamandra was right there? And again, it's the batch format. It's like I don't want to watch 18 episodes in a week. Like I can't
do it anymore.
So I'll just make the compilation video of Dr. Salamandra.
Yep.
But
I will say that I did watch at least one episode of this in sub because for the most part I was watching the dub, and the sub is not as insufferable. The dub is absolutely
that's good to know.
Just absolutely appalling. I like the script and just the voices and everything about it is pretty grim.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's it for Lazarus. Maybe next time, Mr. Watanabe. Maybe next time.
Lazarus 2, baby.
Don't do too much soundboard. That's it, right?
No, did you guys hear that? Oh my god, that was.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was totally an accident.
We hear everything that is put through the
that
soundboard.
was the timing was pretty great.
I'm sorry. I was
just cut it out in the end.
I was typing.
On the other hand, the timing
typing.
is hilarious.
Maybe we'll leave this whole stupid bit in. Sorry. Hey, behind the curtains, I'm typing time codes with my left hand on a note on a notes doc over here.
It was so perfect.
Well.
Mhm.
I assumed it was on purpose.
It was not. I can't recover. You guys watched Kowloon Generic Romance, right? Tell me how that show wrapped up.
Yeah. Wait, so am I the only one who watched
I think
the
so. I
final
fell
episode?
behind and couldn't
Likewise,
catch it.
unfortunately.
I am one episode behind, so I have not. Sadly, I did not watch the actual last episode, but you know,
Okay.
I don't mind being spoiled, Artemis. So please,
Okay, I won't do the entire, this and then this and then this, but the end of episode 12, the city was collapsing, right?
Yeah.
It was starting to,
Right.
literally
Kudo
fall
had come to terms with the simulation, basically.
Yes. So it basically collapses fully, and everyone is just disappearing, just straight up vanishing.
Yeah.
And then Reiko is she doesn't vanish, but she's kind of dropped into like a virtual ocean of some kind, I guess. Like she's in the water, and as you do, and then she is rescued by her pet goldfish.
Okay.
And yes, go success. And she after she's rescued, she gets to kind of watch in a movie theater, like in a, I guess, virtual secret movie theater, the whole how her counterpart died, and kind of what led up to that, and talks to Kudo, and they both kind of come to terms with his grief. Basically, it's essentially a coming to terms of his grief,
Sure.
and her finally understanding what kind of led up to the creation of this particular iteration of the city,
Right.
and how long it's been going for, because the summer has been repeating for. They don't say how many times, but just on repeat. For
The implication being that this is not the first time that
right for a long time. Yeah,
this fake Kowloon has been generated.
Right, and every time it gets to August 31st midnight, it resets back to June, I think it is.
Okay, so it's like a time reset, but this is the first time that the simulation has actually collapsed,
yes,
so to speak.
Yes, literally it lasts for the entire summer and then just keeps looping back. So it's an endless summer.
Endless summer
situation. Yes.
One might say an endless 8 situation.
Yes. So after all of that, Reiko does leave the city and does not disappear. So she is able to
Cool.
kind of reintegrate herself back into society, like actual, Hong Kong.
Right.
And everyone else all the other main characters also make it out, basically. And at the very end, she is going to be having dinner with Yao Mei, and Kudo plops himself down. And she's like, it's been 2 years, you asshole, kind of thing. And it's a pretty happily ever after situation.
But I mean, I guess most importantly, right, is that it did not end romantically, right? Like they,
no.
Or is there a bit of a will they, won't they situation? Like,
I guess it's implied that they may rekindle that, but it's not heavily romantically coded. It's not.
Sure.
It neither confirms nor denies that they will. Yeah.
I think for me, the main reason why that's kind of what was going to be one of my big questions going into the finale, right, is because like I feel like the subtext was that Kudo and Reiko's like relationship was I think generally could be read as unhealthy, right? In the fake Kowloon, right? Like the like what they were both like trying to find in each other, and so at least to me, it seems like I am glad that it sounds like they at least had a amicable separation after once they came to terms with their respective like struggles, and if they get together after that, then I think I'm totally okay with that. I think I just didn't want it to be like true love can fix your grief over your dead
they
fiance.
They don't go that route. I think it's more that he kind of just had time to fix himself. The implication is that he disappeared for 2 years after everything disappeared and quote unquote got better. Like he was able to fully come to terms just within himself.
Okay, that's cool.
With the old Reiko's death, and that he was not responsible for it, etc. And that this kind of re-meeting could be as the first step to a healthy, genuinely healthy romantic relationship.
Seeing the new Reiko as her own like individual person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I really liked the final episode. I thought it was really well done. I was in a weird position with the show where I liked the first couple of episodes and I liked the last couple of episodes and did not especially like the middle.
Interesting. I feel like for me, I liked the introduction. I actually liked a lot of the more slice of life stuff, and this is me going against type, but I was actually starting to like kind of like deflate a bit the more and more they focused on the sci-fi conspiracy.
Right,
so
those are the parts I also did not that I liked the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I am happy to hear that it still ends strongly, though. So I will definitely have to check out that last episode, because I think like thematically what you're talking about, Artemis, does sound along the lines of probably what I would have wanted to see this show kind of conclude on. So I'm glad it sounds like they pulled it off.
Yeah, it's like I'm not going to say it goes Evangelion series ending or anything, but it's that kind of introspection.
It's more an internal conflict than an external one, right?
Right. Yeah, indeed. And the ending where they kind of talk to each other is also like, it's all very kind of psychologically coded as well, watching stuff in a virtual movie theater and people disappear and reappear at random.
Everybody just biting.
Gotta sit down. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. But not in a. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
To be clear, I think they didn't overdo it. It doesn't feel so armchair psychology as to be. Right. As to be kind of insufferable.
Nobody's saying congratulations.
Right.
There's not. It doesn't quite reach those levels.
Yeah, to be fair, the nature of the show means that I went in expecting like moderate degrees of journey through the mind's eye. So to hear that it mostly kept it under wraps or within boundaries, that is good to hear. I will say the one thing I constantly felt like I was getting hung up on is like I know that like the people in the fake Kowloon are just simulations, but you do spend enough time with some of those simulated people, like mainly Xiaohei, I think, that like the disappearance of Kowloon Xiaohei, it's like I know the answers. Well, no, but the real Xiaohei is out here, grown up, and it's like, yeah, but I mean, look, yes, I know that on a metatextual level, these are all fictional characters, but this is a fictional character you spent.
We've been primed through too much science fiction to like accept simulacras as like bespoke individuals with their own personhood, right? Like,
right, yeah. So, but I guess I guess it all works out in the end. Actually, you said that she got saved by the goldfish. Like I'm almost like, what was the? Is it some like, oh, your love for me turned me into a real goldfish or something? Like what?
I could not tell you. I actually don't know. maybe I zoned out at exactly the wrong time in a previous episode where there was something and I just
I don't know,
missed.
what does the
But I
goldfish
was paying
represent?
attention. I wasn't switching tabs or checking emos or anything. I was genuinely paying attention this last episode, and I do not know
Okay.
why or how Success rescued.
Sure.
I couldn't. I don't know. I got nothing.
Goldfish, I guess.
Yeah.
But cool. All right. Well, that is Kowloon generic romance. I think I only have one episode left, so I think I definitely want to wrap that up. Iro, you said you're more than a few episodes behind.
I am.
You intent on seeing this one through, or you think you've heard enough?
It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's that life happens.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I might end up doing instead is just reading the manga.
Read the manga.
Rather than watching the anime.
Yeah. I mean, even I'm thinking of that because, like, I have heard that, like, to get to the ending in one core, they actually had to. My understanding from manga readers that they actually had to skip a lot of like filler, filler, slice of life stuff, right? Like, apparently, there's a lot more just like Reiko hanging out in Kowloon chapters that they had to cut to for time. So it's like, I don't know,
just Reiko and her boobs hanging out. Yep.
Look, I mean that's it would not surprise me if that's probably what's happening in that manga. But well, look, no need to call out Gel and his disgusting adult woman fetish here.
Whoa.
We'll leave it at that.
Jesus.
Jodan.
Taken out of context, this podcast is just
wild and wacky.
Look, this is what's going to happen when I'm steering the ship. All right, but don't worry, I'm here to bring it back.
Don't worry, by throwing me overboard like the anchor.
It's time to go, Iro. Over the side you go.
No.
Take off the training weights. Take off the training weights. Lock and load. We're saving the best and the biggest for last. It's time to talk about Mobile Suit Gundam GQuuuuuX.
Yep. Artemis, you have the ripcord.
I'm gonna fade quietly. I will be here.
You have the ripcord for what, like, if it starts going too long, or if we start, what have you? Step in and tell us to shut the fuck up.
Stop playing that curtain call music.
Yes.
Okay, so what if Gundam, but big?
Dude, okay, so
you mean
Zig? What that tells me is you don't understand Tomino's concept of the hyper mode as introduced in Aura Battle or Dunbine.
Zig explodes, not a true Tomino patriot.
I'm sorry. Gundam turned big, very, very funny, ridiculous. Also, I immediately clocked in. That's a Dunbine.
It is a Dunbine. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, GQuuuuuX. So, just as a quick summary of the kind of final events here. Neon fires the Yomantho, blows up Abo-Aq, which I suppose in a sense is killing the least sympathetic people possible because it's a bunch of probably Xeon Gear and diehards anyway.
Sure. But a lot of the least sympathetic people possible.
It is a lot of people. Like, I don't know if the full numbers have ever been given. It's like, I don't know if it's a Death Star situation, how many people were, Amuro Ray, do you know how many people were stationed at Abo-Aq?
Let's say that she probably killed at the minimum several thousand people.
Yes. Machu and Yan fight, because of their misplaced affections for Shuji. Shuji comes back. Char is revealed. They do. Hey guys, remember the theater scene in Zeta? Let's do it again. Machu crashes through the ceiling. To be fair, in a very funny way.
Yes.
The kids make up. Shuji reveals the true plan. Beyond the Time plays.
Calling it a plan is generous.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But Shuji reveals that that a dreaming Lala creates every multiverse in the UC. in an attempt to find a universe in which Char survives the fated encounter with Amuro Ray.
I think the big twist here, and kind of I think it's pretty well executed, is the reveal that this Lala is not actually from the original timeline.
Not
she's
our Lala. Yes.
Yeah, she's from a timeline where when they were fighting, Amuro killed Char rather than her, basically.
Yes, and in her new type induced grief, dreamed up untold universes. You know, the universe where Char got the goof, the universe where Char exploded 30 seconds after piloting the Zuda,
the universe where Char had the big Zam,
the universe where Char drove the Toyota RS2.
That's our universe.
Yes, you're right. The universe where Char ate the
new type burger.
Yeah.
Was it Burger King or McDonald's? I always forget.
McDonald's.
It was McDonald's.
Yes. That this burger has as much new type potential as Amuro Ray.
Is there Burger King in Japan?
Sure.
Artemis, we need you. Artemis, we need you.
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
Yes,
I have personally eaten there, and it's fine.
Thank you for fact checking, Artemis. Anyways,
you're welcome.
So,
I bet you Burger King had a Razefon tie-in.
Fuck, man. That's perfect. Oh, I wish we did podcast titles. I really wish. That's perfect right there. Sick. That would have been it right there.
Yeah.
But so long story short, Shuji is this a sort of another like implied to be Lala tier like new type. Like his connection to the Force is strong.
Fuck man, everybody here is a Lala tier new type. Everybody can do whatever the fuck they want.
All right, look, I'm trying to stay on rails here. So Shuji reveals that he is also a sort of multiversal traveler and has attempted time and time again to save Lala from her fate, right? That Lala, in her like attempts to like dream up new multiverses, is simply like bringing more pain and suffering and grief upon her, right? And that the best thing that Shuji believes he can do is kill Lala, right? Bring her finality, right? End her.
Bring her back to the original timeline.
Yes. And so Nyan and Machu become Mavs. They hold hands. They hold heads even, and take the fight to Shuji piloting the original RX-78-2 Gundam, pulled in from again our UC. It is
the ether. I don't like
the ether, right? This is almost not the literal RX-78-2 as much as it is the like
the idea of
gestalt concept of the RX-78-2. You know, they fight, as we alluded to. The Gundam there are many Gundams, so I have to specify. The RX-78-2 gets big, it gets hyper, even. Machu wins through the power of love and grit.
Char gets blown up, but not before he manages to do the last shooting.
Last shooting, because we just cannot fucking help ourselves. And peace reigns through the UC.
Wavering hand.
Machu defeats Shuji, finds her freedom, makes it back to Earth with Nyan. Salem Mass with Rambaral in tow, take power over Zeon.
Yeah.
It's
bad.
Interesting. So, like, what particularly upsets you? I want to know. Like,
I don't think I'm up. Like, I'm mostly playing this up for comedy. Like, I'm not upset.
Tell me what you really feel.
Well, Doctor, I think the thing that upsets me about this ending, upsets strong again. You know, there's just not really much to it. You know, that this is not a clash of ideologies or a clash of interesting character arcs. You know, it is just we're fighting over who gets to do more Mobile Suit Gundam tributes, basically. Like,
I think generously, my take is that it is less about ideology as it is about who gets to decide the future, like the present or the past, right? Like it is constantly positioning Machu, the younger generation, a child, against these ghosts of another age, right? Whether physically or metaphorically, right?
Sure.
And I think broadly, like, the story is about how we must, if not destroy the past, we must break away from the past to win our future. And then I think maybe where our discussion gets into is how we all independently feel how successful GQuuuuuX was at achieving that message.
Depends. I don't know if I necessarily agree with like that as like the moral of the story, but it's like I'm a little more like conflicted and curious and just unsure about some of that stuff, right?
Right.
Sure. I mean, I think, I'm just going to go for the meat and potatoes thing, which
Please.
is just on a purely technical, exposition of the story we are telling. I'm so tired of magic new types. I'm so tired of new typism being kind of like a magic bullet that can do anything at any point. And, I thought it was bad in original Gundam and Zeta and Char's counterattack and all that as well, but between this and Unicorn, it has become really egregious in recent times. But also, just the intense focus on new typism above all the other aspects of the setting is ruinous to me. It is so dominant that it has become a crutch for writing. These characters do not need to have chemistry. They do not need to have motivation because it's new type resonance. I got a lot of that from this ending.
Yeah, and I think I despite being like maybe the like most real robot guy, I have come to accept a certain amount of new type magic in Gundam because I think it is so part of the franchise, for better or worse, that
sure,
you kind of have to accept it for better or worse. But I do think maybe for me it is less like the invocation of new type magic and miracles as much as it is just Gundam's inability to like really let it go. Like even Tomino doesn't really invoke new types in his later Gundams, right? Like
what did I say? What did I tweet out on Blue Sky? Just find and replace every instance of new type in the script of GQuuuuuX with a Gundam fan.
Sure, and I guess, but like in that case, I mean, I think that's very good. But it's like when you say Gundam fan, are you talking about like the viewers or the creators?
Yes, both.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. Yeah.
No, I think that's correct. This is a
yes. I mean, the ending of the show is like what Mr. Gundam summons the Gundam to get to make the show more like a Gundam to protect the sanctity of a Gundam, right? And Machu is fighting and saying, I want to be a Gundam fan who doesn't have to be protected by Gundam being like Gundam.
Right, but this is just an example of do not do this cool thing.
I think and I think there's like tension there of Tsurumaki concerning his career of like, what has he worked on at Kara? He's worked on Evangelion for years. He worked worked on Die Buster, a sequel to Gunbuster back in Gainax, and now he's working on Gundam. The show he watched probably when he was young, and so it's like I feel like there's this tension of I love all of these things so much, and I have to like make one of these things. How do I make this thing that is like the old thing in a way that satisfies me, who knows too much about the old thing, but also is a new thing? And like that tension within the show is like I find interesting. Like it's something I'm like turning around in my head,
right?
And I find that more interesting than what are Sailor's policies for Zeon, right?
Okay, look, to be clear, when I am going on my like UC obsessive tangents about like what is Sailor Mask going to prosecute Maku for war crimes at Odessa? Like that is mostly a bit. That is just me being a fan who has too much knowledge in his brain. I am not actually complaining about like where and how GQuuuuuX chooses to invoke its alternate UC stuff. My issue is more on the thematic level of yes, I agree that I think Tsurumaki is trying to square the tension between his probably true and genuine love for Gundam with the message this show is trying to sell, which is breaking away from the past, and choosing to break away from the past by invoking a ton of references and cameos.
I think, Ivo, I agree with you completely. I think that the tension between the idea of telling a new story and the desire to homage the past is the interesting thing here. And, I think that it's difficult to say, right? I do not have any doubt at all that this was done, as an attempt to show love and show respect for the franchise. That is not what I am, dinging this ending for. I think that they told a story with the best intentions and with the most respect for the source material. It's just that I think that the tension that is there is not expressed in an interesting way, let's say. I think that it leans too heavily towards respect for the source material and not enough into iconoclasm for the source material.
And that probably reflects some of his own attachment, right?
Right, yes. And, that we know that Enkido and Anno were involved in the writing as well. I'm sure that there was some aspect of them in there as well. But
if I might backpedal a bit on my own statements,
go for it.
That said, I think most of that's in the back half of the show, and I think the interesting Machu and Yan stuff that I liked kind of disappears around episode 7 or 8.
Yeah, that is definitely another one of my big issues with this show.
I can feel like I can cleave the show in twain, where one half is I want to make a interesting alternate universe War in the Pocket, examining this snapshot of a different world that might have been, and then this other half is how do I square up wanting to do that with the first half, and that they do not mesh well for me.
I think you're right, and I think sort of the thing looming over all of this has been the lack of runtime, right? And I think this is one situation where it really shows, because they are cramming so much stuff into 12 episodes.
If it was only 6 episodes, then you could do the first half, and I think you could have made it work. And if it was more episodes, you could have had more time for the other things.
Yeah, I liked your thesis, Iro, that you mentioned that GQuuuuuX should have either been 6 or 24 episodes. Because the former enforces a focus and the latter gives the text time to room to marinate in its topics. Because I think at the end of the day, I know I sound like a broken record on this. Hell, you can go to our other podcast, Blue Mondays, where I can't help but talk about it there too.
It's infectious.
I think it's in some ways, I think all of us, all 3 of us, our feelings on this show is kind of informed by we keep talking about tension, right? Various forms of tension that GQuuuuuX expresses, and I think the biggest one is the tension of GQuuuuuX feels like it wanted to tell 2 different stories and tried to split the difference and failed to varying degrees, and I think our overall opinions on GQuuuuuX depends on how much you think it fails because of that attempt. And it, I think for my own part, the thing that really drives me insane, about GQuuuuuX in a good way, in the way that all Gundams drive me insane, right? I am in thrall to the
Are you a Gundam fan possessed by hatred?
Yes. I really think there is so much potential to almost every plot line in GQuuuuuX, right? If we want to look at these as narrative pillars, I would have followed either of these to their logical conclusion. I really, really like what little we get of Machu and Yan, and Shuji's there too, I guess. Like,
Mhm.
the tension between those two, right? Like, they're different
Mhm.
backgrounds, they're different classes, right? They're different, class
Yes.
backgrounds and
It's like-
upbringings. Like,
Yeah, if you asked me to cut and make the half that's all war in the pocket, like I cut it at Nyan, or Machu has been arrested by the military police as a terrorist, and Nyan looks at the sky from her shiny new office and can't even see Earth. Right?
yeah,
It's like
right?
you could probably cut it there as like our positions have reversed and none of us are happy.
Right, like, it's God. I mean, yeah, like, yes,
Right.
that version of GQuuuuuX probably
Like, and
banged so
that's
hard,
like the war in
but
the pocket
also-
knife twist to me,
Yeah.
right? And then we see Charlie Bull drinking his bottle of Novum Coda of 080.
Yes,
It's like, okay, come on.
but yeah, it's and you know what? Look, I can't help it. The UC nerd in me, the part of me that does like sympathize with Tsurumaki.
Sympathize with Ano in those episodes.
I must admit, maybe I even sympathize with Ano. Is I am also fascinated by the alt UC stuff, because the same part of me that wants to play a translated Giren's Greed someday.
But they don't do anything with the alt
Yes,
UC stuff.
and
There
so
is
that is-
no alt UC.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to explain. Is I love the potential of it. Right, I love the
So like
potential
when you say
of-
that like they don't do anything, like, can you elaborate for me?
Sure. I mean, like, there is not a fundamental change in the status of the world, and there is not an interest in exploring what the fundamental ramifications of a Xeon victory might actually mean. You know, the apparent effect of the Xeon victory is a sort of loosely confederated set of independent colony states, right?
Sure.
Which
Okay.
is what Xeon was ostensibly fighting for.
However, Side 6 is still like a neutral colony. Like, they're taking in refugees from everywhere that, Xeon wrecked and or the Federation wrecked,
Sure, but I mean, like, there's not really any elaboration on how this would change the fundamental state of the world. Like,
in what way? Like, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think
the thing I'm trying to say is that you would expect things to be way different if Xeon won the war. Right? What would Xeon winning the war do? What would the triumph of a fascistic state over all of humanity lead to?
with explicitly genocidal aims.
Because like the thing is, if what the show assumes is, like I said, a loose confederation of independent colonies. And that's exactly what Xeon said they wanted to do. But if you've seen any of original Mobile Suit Gundam, you know that that is not the actual aim of Xeon, And so it just, there just doesn't seem to be any interest in engaging with the socio-political aspect of the story. And maybe that's not what they wanted to do, and that's fine.
Right.
But
I think
in that case, why is it an alternate UC?
That's kind of my feeling, right? Is like, okay, I get that it's a 12-episode series, and that maybe deep down, the alternate UC stuff was never meant to actually matter that much to the overall plot. I get it. I do understand mechanically those decisions, but yes, it's kind of like then why invoke it, right? And
I'm going to play like the darkest aspect of Devil's Advocate here, and the answer is because it's way cooler for you to be able to say, "Hey, the dude who disappeared and like Zeknovid us all is Shah Aznable," rather than original character number one.
And I think there's also an element of how do I put this? To be clear, this show is no Requiem for Vengeance. This is not like the worst type of like pro-Xeon propaganda. But I think like because the show makes such a big point about this being an alternate universe where Xeon won the war, I guess I do also.
Where everyone is living in like a stifled environment and hates everything. Like,
but also, like, does not look that like materially different from how Side 6 was in the original Gundam? So like,
And
is it really
They're a neutral colony, right? Like,
well? Then the implication is that
have that, like,
Zeon,
right, but you have that
so-
tension like weighing above them of the fascists one next door, and for and they crash.
you though?
They crash into their warship into the sky, and we get like news reports being like, well, they technically haven't released the Minovsky particles yet, so it's not really a hostile act. They're just hanging out. We promise. And like that's the stuff that I felt was adequate to me, right? Like,
But
these lines that give a deeper understanding of the thing.
But they actually are just hanging out and they won't do anything. So like there's no
That's
satirical
called like dramatic
or
irony, right? I don't know.
like I don't know. It's like, look, to be clear, I did not need like what the fuck was that dude's name? Double 80. I didn't need like a Colonel Killington or whatever like walking around.
I think it's
but,
just
like,
literally killing.
I think it's just killing, yes. But like, I think, and again, maybe it's not the focus of the show. Fine, but like, I guess just like if you're gonna make the alternate Zeon like timeline such a like prominent aspect of the show, and I do think it's prominent because why else do the Anno flashbacks exist then? Like,
I mean,
the show
I don't think the Anno flashbacks were the correct choice for that show.
And believe me, that is the
Agreed.
next topic I have lined up in my notes here. But I just want to finish this thought, which is like, I think I just needed GQuuuuuX to be willing to interrogate. Because here's the thing: the show's obvious. Oh, Kycilia bad, Giran bad. Like, yes, Zabi's bad.
Yes.
We get that. But I think the lack of any real interrogation of like Zeon.
Why are they bad? Like,
yeah,
why
as
are
an
they bad?
ideological
You watched the
political
original
entity.
show. You know why they're bad.
But what if I didn't?
Then you shouldn't be watching this show. And like that is surely could be listed as a problem with GQuuuuuX, is that like it relies so heavily upon such things. But like, I don't know. But I guess if you didn't, you're not a new type, right?
I don't know. It's like, I guess it's just like, I mean, it's like, okay, it's one thing for them to not, like, for example, talk about the colony drop. Fine, that's old news, that's history. But like, when Nyan fires the Yomantho at Aobawa Q, you'd think that would be like this like crossing of the Rubicon, right? This like moment where everybody present realizes like the awful political machine that Zeon is, but instead everyone's just like, man, that's crazy. Wow.
I mean, and then like new type magic blows up everything there. It's like 20 minutes later, right? Like,
and maybe that's the thing. It's just that nobody has any time to internalize these like acts, right? But
And
I don't know.
and I don't entirely blame them for not kind of like throwing the book at Nyan, because people have done war crimes before in Gundam and gotten away with it scot-free, and there's not time to explore the ramifications of it, But it is weird that there's basically no, like, the Earth Federation basically do not appear in this show, right? Like they're kind of non-entities. This is a show about Zeon. And while I'm not
as much as like, wouldn't then, I don't know, what would you say about like a War in the Pocket, like the original War in the Pocket, which it does not really politically interrogate Zeon or the Federation either, other than in which the ways they're interacting with Alex, right?
But the ways in which they're interacting is the Federation are breaking a treaty to develop an illegal weapon, and Zeon are going to nuke the colony,
right?
Like.
And also, like, to be
and
clear,
so, like here, you have like Shalia Bull is trying to like assassinate the leaders of Zeon, and
I'm not going to lie, I could not give a shit about what Shalia Bull is doing at any point in time, because he is the most nothing character in existence.
I am like very bothered by Shalia's presence in some ways, because again, I think broadly I get why he's here in this story, but
you're just like saying then his actions don't matter because I don't care about him. Right?
No, I'm saying his actions don't matter because I do not understand why he is doing them, and I'm not invested in his personal conflict.
Dude rattles off the summary of Char's counterattack as the justification for why he attacks Char at the last minute.
That's completely reasonable. I feel like that's a reasonable thing for him to do. Like,
yeah, because the only reason anybody does anything in this show is because it's something that happened in original Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yes,
right?
you could say that about every Gundam show.
Absolutely not.
I just don't know if I'd go that far.
No, I think every Gundam show only exists because of the original Mobile Suit Gundam, right?
It's a
yes.
I mean, yes,
you-
obviously this is
universe,
this is a
yes. Like-
tautology, right? But like, I feel like that's part of this show. That's why they summoned the original Gundam to stomp around on everybody. Right?
But you are mixing Watsonian and Doyleist arguments at this point. You know,
I think there's a certain amount of intertwinedness to them here. Like,
all right, do we want to talk about maybe the other big elephant in the room, which is
what is the other big elephant in the room at this point?
Hideaki Anno?
Yeah. I would say a net negative impact on this show.
I would say he probably had more creative involvement than we first assumed, while still being a fairly minor creative figure.
No, but I think what Iro is getting at is specifically the 1 Year War flashbacks.
I mean, mind palace for me, and maybe the answer is yes, and I'm a fool. But like, would you have as much expectation of, let's just explore the ramifications of an alternate UC if we did not have 35 minutes of Anno furiously jerking off while writing those segments? Like,
I absolutely think the answer is no. I think that the presence of those segments inherently encourages the presence of those segments is the most explicit tie back of this show to the original show, right? And therefore, I expect more because they are there.
Yeah.
Like, I think Aaron and I talked about this. Like, imagine the world where episode 1 airs and we have not seen the movie, or not even that, but where the Anno flashbacks don't exist.
Right. I think we would be fascinated.
Bull just shows up.
I think we would be a lot more excited to explore the ramifications ourselves as people who have watched Mobile Suit Gundam, whereas we elected to see the movie first, and the show is elected to put it as episode 2, where Anno just blasts us with the fire hose of, yo, remember that from the original Gundam? Remember this? And it's like, buddy, I'm good. Yeah.
Even on a purely practical level, if you take out the flashbacks, you have another hour or so of actual time to devote to the characters and things that are important.
I don't like the flashbacks.
I think the Anno flashbacks are such a fucking weight around this show's neck. Like, the Anno flashbacks are the kind of thing that, like, if you aired it as a, like, 40th year anniversary OVA, I watch and go, oh, that's kind of neat. I mean, that sure is Anno, fucking, I guess. But, like, in the world where that exists as, like, parts of the fabric of GQuuuuuuX, I think it does irreversibly taint that show. And like this entire conversation exists. This entire segment of this podcast exists in some ways because of that Anno sequence. And it's just
Anno's just Shuji, man. Shuji's out here saying we need to do this because I just love Lala Soon from the original 1979 show Mobile Suit Gundam so much. We need to do everything. Canon. We must maintain canon. And Tsurumaki / Machu is here saying, you've shown me so many things as I've slaved under you working for Die Buster and Evangelion for so long, but I want to grow to someone who's not protected by legacy franchises like Kara has produced its entire existence.
I mean, like, I don't want to perhaps overstate the. I know you're goofing, but I don't want to like run into the situation where we blame Anno for all the bad things.
Look,
to be clear, I think Tsurumaki and Okino have a lot to answer.
But I'm goofing, but also I do feel like the flashback episodes were a bad idea.
I think I was trying to be. If I would try to give like the mental process of like how I would justify saying Anno nostalgia bad, Tsurumaki nostalgia okay. Still not great, but okay.
Question mark.
I think
Tsurumaki, he just has a defter hand about. Like, look, he still can't help himself, right? There's the last shooting pose, there's like stuff like that. But I think broadly, Tsurumaki is more confident leaving its callbacks and references to being that, like callbacks and references that exist in broadly the margins of the story. Now, sometimes it is unavoidable, but like. Look, maybe Lala was always going to be there, and like, so you can't really get around that. But I think, whereas Anno's flavor of nostalgia is like
it's very mechanical, right?
I do want to note that this show achieves the nearly impossible task of making Lala Soon even more of a plot device than she was in Mobile Suit Gundam. Like, which is like I'm not saying it's unavoidable. I'm saying it's not a great look. Put it that way.
Yeah, like, and to be clear, I'm not going to pretend like, oh, Lala Sune was so much better handled in Tomino's hands, but I think the way Lala is handled in this show kind of just furthers the problem we all have with Lala, which is she is this omnipotent.
She's more a plot device than a person.
She is like new type Virgin Mary. Like she is this like perfect, untouchable being who just has guides the UC with a deft hand, and it's like, again, I'm not even one of those power level types, but it's like, this is like the craziest fucking shit Lala's ever done, right? Like, I mean, look, I know she's like become a new type swan and talked to Amuro, through the Psycho frame, but like making multiverses is some real.
I mean, again, it's just space magic.
It's a big logical leap from anything she did in prior Gundams. Is all I'll say.
I mean, and I think in a certain sense, Lala kind of represents my issue with the show as a whole, which is that it cannot escape the overwhelming shadow of 0079, right?
I was about to say, are you going to say it can't escape the Mobius strip? But
it can't escape the it having its soul weighed down by gravity. There, I said it. Obligatory for any Gundam discussion.
Yes.
There, but you know what I mean. It is not
totally.
It cannot bring itself to break the bonds. It cannot.
Not fully.
And the thing is, like, I'm not necessarily against, like, it's me. I love weird metatextual, self-referential shows, Hell, my favourite Gundam show is Turn A, which is basically a Gundam show about Gundam.
Yeah.
But it's so much more elegantly executed than this. It's such a more...
Turn A also has five times
as many episodes, and it is also guided by the stern but gentle hand of the genius himself, Yoshiyuki Tomino.
But to an extent, like, perhaps Tomino is just more able to be less precious about his work because he sees it as work.
I think that's always been the case.
It's like like the Gainax generation like grew up with these things, right? And they will always have an outsized weight in their mind compared to whatever else, right?
What I'm trying to say is that I don't mind a Gundam show being about Gundam if it has something interesting to do with that idea. And at the end of the day, I don't think GQuuuuuX had anything especially interesting to do with that idea.
From your perspective, right? Yeah.
From my perspective, and this is not to say that the show is garbage or anything like that. I think there are parts of the show I enjoyed immensely. I think it is an incredible looking show. I think it's beautifully put together. I think there are moments of great pathos and great, spectacle in it. But it's not one that's going to stick in the memory for me, at least.
I think that's fair.
Sure. I think the ways in which it is interesting to me are on the broader metatextual level than necessarily elements introduced in the show itself, right?
Right.
Which
I think
these are different vectors, right? And so yes, I completely see where you're coming from. The show is not presented to you anything interesting enough contained within itself for you to latch onto, right?
And I absolutely see where you're coming from because it is an interesting thing. This Gundam farmed out to a third party of people who grew up on Gundams is a fascinating anomaly.
God, I remember being so excited when I heard that Tsurumaki was making a Gundam. Like it was Gundam Christmas that day, But yeah, I guess then my capstone here, at least for the podcast.
Let's wrap it up.
Yes, I think all three of us are working on our own like separate theses on GQuuuuuX. I think
we will be posting some stuff on the blog.
Yes,
that
I
should
think
be
by the
out
time
by the
you
time.
hear by this podcast,
not mine.
Well, yes, there will be written thoughts on GQuuuuX. I think for me, again, I think I once again kind of find myself falling somewhere in between here. I think I love so much of like what I think GQuuuuuX is attempting thematically on paper, but I think in my heart of hearts as a Gundam fan, I am left cold, and my great consternation is like I feel like I have spent the last 2 months trying to figure out why I don't love this show, while also wanting to like this show. Like, I wish I loved GQuuuuuX. Like, honestly, like, I think it's a beautiful looking show. Like, to be clear, the production is like really excellent. I think Kara's usage of CG is better than most, like, most cases we have
It
seen.
usually has been. So
I was a little disappointed that they didn't do the Gridman thing of making the RX-78 completely 2D.
Oh, completely hand drawn.
Would have been a good goof.
Yeah, I would have loved that. I mean, you know, if look, if you're gonna do your stupid like Gundam callbacks, I want to see quality Gundam. I want to see skinny Gundam, fat Gundam,
tall Gundam.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, I think because like these conversations we've had is like, I feel like I'm almost also having these conversations with Tsurumaki, with Edo Kido, with Ano, other Gundam fans. And I think as a result, I cannot ever deny the passion and love for Gundam these people have. And in my mind, it is like, well, if you guys like Gundam as much or more than I do, like, then why do I constantly find myself feeling cold, left in the cold on this show? And I think just like that is like the core of my tension with GQuuuuuX. It's a show I desperately want to love, but I can't because of just so many. There's just so many things I can't bring myself to forgive about how it's told, how it was built.
I think,
as a result, this is not a Gundam I will forget. It is probably actually going to go into that pantheon of the Gundams that frustrate me. For better or worse.
Things that are almost good are better.
I mean, you know, I've been putting together, you know, I've been thinking about where to put GQuuuuuX on my like tier maker list. And I mean, you know, I won't read out like the list, but I'll say, you know, currently it's like below Witch from Mercury, but it's above Gundam Wing, and it's hanging out with, like, you know, maybe the likes of Thunderbolt and 8th MST and F91.
Man, I do like F91 though.
You know?
But yeah, I think this is a show that will have a more interesting evaluation in the future.
Yes, no,
which is maybe a cowardly thing for me to say, but
if you want to say like a Gundam,
true, okay, whoa.
No, I meant true as in I think this is a Gundam that will like kickstart discussions, and like not true about the other thing. But no, yes, I agree. I think more than Witch from Mercury, more than IBO, if we were to talk about the two previous TV Gundams, GQuuuuuX is as Gundam as it gets, and that is the thing I could never take away from it, right? Like, what is the thing I always say? Gundam can be bad, Gundam can be good, but above all else, Gundam must be interesting. And GQuuuuuX is a really interesting show.
In some ways, yes.
I will give it the Ultimate Gundam accolade. It's better than Seed.
All right, we got it. We got some Seed dungeon here. We did it.
Okay, yeah, we've hit the.
But if I may chime in with my one Gundam thought,
absolutely.
Okay.
I like the music in Seed a lot. Seed has some of the best music.
We will not throw shade upon Rofuyo himself.
Yes, that is true. Look, even I will. You know, look, I have my Gundam music. I have my Gundam music playlist.
It's absolutely too late. We cannot pivot. We're talking about Gundam, and we're going to finish after talking about Gundam. But the last Thunderbolt Fantasy movie is out there.
Oh yes! Oh my God!
Next time.
It's a little too late for a wrap up, but yes, it did come out. It was decent. It was fun. Was it everything we hoped for? Who could
couldn't
say?
have been. It never could have been.
Yes, but yes, fine. You know what? Maybe we can end it that way. You know, despite everything, shout outs to TM Revolution. Now that's a real one.
There's someone who never lets us down.
Look, I even like the song he did for Zeta: A New Translation.
Did I tell you that when I was in Japan, I went to the Gundam base in Odaiba, and they had a Neo Zeong that he had painted up.
Oh
Sure.
man, I think you might have mentioned that, but I forgot.
I'll post it in the podcast notes
Hell
after
yeah,
this
all
as
right.
well. But yes,
All right, well,
There it is.
we may be bloodied and battered, but we did it. I think that's a wrap.
Can we move on to a new era of Gundam fans? Like, is it safe now that Zeon has been defeated?
The jury's out, I mean, I think with Gundam, look, if you want my actual answer, they're gonna announce a Gundam Seed movie next, and we're all gonna groan and go, "God damn it, we didn't know what we had with the GQuuuuuX." Right?
I mean, look, it took them like
supposed to
20
be
years.
Are we all supposed to be looking forward to Sydney Sweeney now playing in the Gundam
is she-
live action or whatever?
was she actually cast for the Gundam movie?
I'm pretty sure. Maybe it was just a rumor, but I feel like
they haven't announced any casting
Who
for
would
that.
Sydney Sweeney even
Sweeney in
play?
final talks for Gundam
I
Legendary's Gundam
heard
movie.
she was maybe slated for Sailor Mass.
Is it meant to? We still don't know if that's meant to be
We actually have no
an
idea what that
adaptation
is.
or a side story or what have you. But
G Savior 2 coming soon.
No, it'll be Igloo
Alright, now-
3.
Now we really have hit the full spectrum of
We
Gundam.
have to go.
dumps.
Yes. Unless you want me to throw in one final jab at Unicorn or something.
can.
But yes. All right. Truly,
I'm no joking about Unicorn. It's just bad.
well and truly, I think that is a wrap on Spring 2025. A season to remember, to be sure. Next time you're all listening, summer 2025 will have begun. By the next time you're listening, we'll have shows to talk about, like Taco P, like Panty and Stalking, good stuff. Those shows very similar in a lot of regards.
Move on. Keep moving.
Honestly,
Yes.
I just think that Panty and Stocking was too indebted to the 1979 show and wasn't able to move beyond it.
Definitely, yes. But all right, in all seriousness, let's take care of our housekeeping. As always, you can check us out on theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky at GLORIOblog. You can check out our written final thoughts on GQuuuuuX on the blog as of this listening. You could also check out Blue Mondays, the Eureka 7 recap podcast that Zig, Aqua, and I have been doing. We're in a pretty interesting stretch of episodes with Eureka 7, so I definitely think it's worth checking out.
Never heard of it.
Indeed. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Hell, I feel like we never asked for this, but leave a review. Let everyone know about how much you love our really good,
if you leave a
intelligent
5-star
takes.
review, maybe we'll read it.
Yeah, you know what? Sure, let's do that. Yes. Actually, I don't know if we should threaten that. Please be cool if you write a 5-star review.
I said maybe.
Let us know how much you agree with our flawless opinions.
Yes, indeed. So, on that note, tell your friends, tell your enemies. We'll see you next time.